Hello, good evening everybody. Good evening, happy Saturday. This is a video I've decided to do to basically preview the big fight tonight, which is Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk. Um, as if you haven't heard of this fight already in the newspapers and everything else this week. This is something I've wanted to do only once I was sure that the fight was actually going to happen. And I've been really into my boxing for years and years now, so bear with me as I make this video, because I think it's a bit of it's a barrier for me to cross. But I think I've got a lot to say about this, but I'm going to make it as concise as I possibly can, and also accessible to people who aren't necessarily people who are obsessed with boxing, basically. So, by way of an agenda here of what I'm going to cover in this hopefully short video, I'm going to give a bit of the context for this fight, why it's important in the present day and in historical terms as well. Then I'm going to get straight into the keys to victory for both of the two fighters, for Fury and for Usyk. What do they need to be doing? What things do they need to be thinking about doing and indeed avoiding for the fight tonight in Saudi Arabia? And then finally, I'm going to conclude with my prediction. So I'm going to nail my colours to the mast here. I'm going to put it all out there in live here on Facebook and wherever else this video goes. I'm going to come to a view about this. So, without further ado on this, I think the first thing to say about this is it's a very, very significant fight. This is the first time we all have gotten the opportunity for 25 years for there to be an undisputed heavyweight champion crowned, and the first time in what they call the four belt era as well. So 25 years ago, British fighter Lennox Lewis beat Evander Holyfield in America in November 1999. I remember it vaguely at the time. I remember there was a lot of controversy in the first fight. It was a draw, but most people thought Lennox Lewis had actually won the fight quite convincingly. So a rematch was ordered, and Lewis did what he needed to do, and he won the fight against Holyfield, who was another fantastic fighter, somebody who beat Mike Tyson twice. And one of the things I remember was Lennox Lewis dedicating his victory to the Queen Elizabeth at the time, which I thought was a classy move. So it's very, very difficult in boxing generally for one fighter to collect all these different belts for reasons which I will just not go into. There's too many sanction bodies, there's a lot of politics in boxing and other chicanery going on here. So this is really a rare event. You know, this is like seeing the Northern Lights in the UK, or dare I say it, this is like Arsenal having a meaningful title run, and it only happens on average every so often, definitely not every year. And I think the other thing I want to say about this fight as well is there's been a lot of trouble getting to this point. There's been injuries on Fury's side. He most recently postponed this fight because of a cut that he sustained. And looking down at my notes here, the earliest we really started meaningfully talking about this fight was actually way back in autumn 2021. So basically after Usyk had beaten Anthony Joshua the very first time in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And for one reason or another, there's been lots of negotiations, there's been lots of tit for tat in the media, there's been a lot of he said, she said stuff. And it's been very, very frustrating for us boxing fans to constantly be talking about this without actually seeing the two guys in the ring together. So I say all that to say this, that it's been a long road to get here to Undisputed, just to get these guys in a signed fight, into a ring and into arena together. It's been a long time coming, and it's a fight that I am I've just been massively looking forward to and praying that it goes ahead. So that's the context. Before I go into the keys to victory, I want to say as well that maybe part of the reason why I've decided to put my thoughts out there about this fight is there's real split of opinion amongst experts in boxing and among my own friends and family who I've been asking all this week about who they think is going to win this fight. People are genuinely divided, I suppose, about who's going to get their hand raised in this. So that aspect in itself, I think, is very intriguing. I think it's a fascinating matchup. I'll go into more detail on this clash of styles that they have, the things they do well, and where their weaknesses potentially are as well. And to round off that point as well, I want to say that there's actually, at the risk of making a bit of a cop-out for myself, not that I'm going to sit on the fence at the end of this with my prediction, but there are a hell of a lot of unknowns and variables, I think, and other people think, with this particular fight, more so than you get with your average heavyweight matchup. And I think the thing that attracts a lot of casual fans to the heavyweight division in particular is that element of uncertainty, the fact that you've got these big lumps throwing these huge punches at each other for 12 rounds. It's a cliche that's, you know, trotted out very often, but it really is true. It's a cliche because it's accurate, which is to say only one punch is all it takes to change absolutely everything. And I don't need to go through a whole list of examples of that. People can shock the world and cause a real upset, beat the bookmakers, and, you know, really just upset the odds, to continue with this betting theme that I'm riffing on here at the end of this point that I'm making. So, keys to victory. Now, I've been very prepared for this. Whoever's watching this video, all two of you, I've been very prepared for this, in that I've got some notes made about this, which I'm just going to rattle through. But before I go into that, what I want to say is the key thing, in essence, with this fight, which can be said for lots of other boxing matches, essentially, the key thing for whoever is going to win the fight tonight, I think it will be the fighter who controls, crucially, the pace of the fight and also the distance. Whoever manages to do that will end up, if we assume that there's going to be fair scoring in this, will be declared the undisputed champion in the heavyweight division. So I'm going to go through keys to victory. So for Tyson Fury, what I've got down here and what I want to share, first of all, is I think he needs to be aggressive in this fight. So Tyson Fury's had a number of fights in the past. I mean, he really started off his career as being what you call an outside fighter. He uses his long reach, he uses his jab to keep a distance, and he's almost wanting his opponent to lunge in and to attack him so he can counter them and time them coming in at the perfect moment to catch them. I don't think that's going to be a sensible strategy for Fury. I think he needs to really get stuck into Usyk from the first round, get in there, set the tempo. What he needs to do, because Alexander Usyk is a southpaw, and he's a very high volume fighter, meaning he throws hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of punches, including at the heavyweight division, even though he moved up from cruiserweight. So what I think Fury needs to do, one of his main key to victory in essence, is to get in, step in with aggression. He's not going to be able to match Usyk's punch volume. He's not going to throw 1,000 punches in a fight, but what he can do and should do is try and push Usyk back and to slow him down. So he needs to go to the body and slow down Usyk for later in the fight, because Usyk is a fighter who typically is a slow starter, like other skilled fighters like Floyd Mayweather, who typically spend the early rounds weighing up their opponent, sussing them out, seeing what they're up to, and just surveying the scene. So, in order to bring Usyk's work rate down, to bring his punch volume down, and to slow him down later in the fight, he needs to be aggressive and set that tone and that pace right from the beginning. Second key to victory for Fury, related to that, is he needs to go to the body. He needs to throw body shots at Usyk. If Usyk does have a weak point in that armour that he seems to wear with his very elusive defensive work, he's like an energy bunny. He's constantly jumping in and out. He's got fantastic footwork as Usyk. He's a very skillful fighter. But Usyk has shown moments, including in his last fight against Daniel Dubois, which when you hit him with a really flush body shot in the right place, he's shown weakness there. So I think Team Fury would clearly have seen that and will have developed some strategies about how they work Tyson Fury into that position to land those shots. And another thing, as I said in my previous point as well, going to the body is a sensible thing to do anyway when you're fighting someone as energetic and active and high work rate as Usyk. It takes away their legs later on in the fight, and Usyk's legs, his footwork, is definitely one of his advantages, so that deals with that as well. Third key to victory, this is something Tyson Fury is renowned for and certainly doesn't need any encouragement to do, and that is to showboat. To do that clowning, the showing off, whatever you want to call it. The reason why I'm advocating this is there's lots of good reasons to showboat, and I think in this fight in particular, it helps G Fury up from a confidence point of view. It gets the crowd going, it creates energy there, but above all, what it does do in the slow rounds, if there's a round, as I think there will be some rounds where there's not much happening potentially, or there's not much in it, for Fury to use showboating tactics to choreograph and perform, if you like, to the judges that he's the boss in there, that he's in charge. So he might throw out a jab and it might not actually land on Usyk, or Usyk might slip it, but Fury might raise his hand or something like that, or he could trash talk Usyk when he throws a punch which he dodges. All stuff like that is to draw attention to Usyk if he's missing a shot or throws a punch which is blocked or doesn't do much damage. It's to draw attention to that in terms of its lack of effectiveness, and then on the other hand, to exaggerate what Fury's doing, even if he's only landing a weak jab here and there, or it might be a lead left hook that only glances, say, the top of Usyk's head or something like that, is to really celebrate that as well. And I can't believe, by the way, this video's been going for 13 minutes. I've just looked down at the time. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? And I also see I've got a couple of viewers here, but I can't see who it is. If you are watching, please do comment if there's something I'm saying which is resonating. I'll give you a shout out as well. So showboating is another key to victory for Fury. And another thing as well, which I've just mentioned as well, I think a key punch for Fury in this fight is going to be that lead left hook. And so I think he needs to use that intelligently. He needs to use all of his punches intelligently, because the jab is such a fundamental punch in the boxer's arsenal, particularly for a fighter as tall and as rangy as Fury is, and he does have that reach advantage over Usyk. But the issue with using too many jabs, particularly if they're, what's called an authoritative jab that he really steps into and, rotates his arm to get into, The problem is he's kind of overcommitting there, and he's giving Usyk the opportunity to counter him, basically, to jump in and land a whole series of shots and combinations while that's going on. Whereas if he's throwing the lead left hook, but he's not committing too much, he's not turning his whole body into it, if it's just more of a flick, I think that's something based on Usyk's past fights, including his fight against Maris Briedis, an absolutely fantastic fight down at cruiserweight, where he really gave Usyk a lot to think about. That lead left hook, particularly early on, was landing with fair regularity there. So the lead left hook, we'll keep an eye on that tonight. I think I'm going to go to Usyk now, purely because I'm looking at the time here. I was not intending for this video to be so long, but time flies when you're having fun. So this brings me to the Usyk section. This is Usyk's keys to victory. So number one, what I think Usyk needs to do is basically, he needs to guard against Fury trying to lean on him. So Fury's bigger, he's heavier than Usyk, and so Fury is clearly going to be using any opportunity to put his weight on the smaller fighter Usyk. So Usyk's going to have a strategy to deal with that, whether that's taking a knee, whether it's complaining to the referee, I don't know. But he can't let that become a regular theme in this fight, because Fury will be trying to lean on him precisely to sap his energy as well. The next key to victory from Usyk's point of view, the reverse of the other one from Fury, is he needs to protect his body, he needs to protect his vulnerability, and then he needs to go after Tyson Fury's body as well. And when you're fighting a taller fighter, the downside of that is often having to navigate such a long reach with that. The upside of it is that you've got more of the fighter to actually to hit and to target. So Usyk's got to protect his own body, where there's a suspicion that he is weak and vulnerable there, and he needs to go after Tyson Fury's body as well and give him something to think about there, and get him to drop his guard from his head down to his body and work Fury up and down, head, body, like that. And the next key to victory, I'm looking down at my notes a lot because I want to be very detailed and accurate in what I'm saying here, is again the reverse of another point on the Fury side of the equation. Is he can't fight this fight at the pace of Fury. So Usyk has got to find a way to not buy Fury's feints. Fury's somebody who loves to try to con his opponent and try and get them reacting to what he's doing with feints a lot of the time. Although incidentally, it didn't have much impact in his previous fight against Francis Ngannou, but that's by the by. So, as I said in my overarching message at the beginning, the winner will be the person who controls the pace and the distance. Usyk, as he's done for most of his fights, I think has got to start aggressively and find a way to essentially to put it on Fury. My next point is something which I think he should have addressed in the lead up to this fight and his preparation, and it's more something to keep in the back of his mind as the fight develops tonight. And that is, because Tyson Fury is what's known as a switch hitter, he mainly fights from an orthodox stance, so his left hand is the jab. He also switches to southpaw from time to time. So Usyk's got to be prepared for that. Usyk has got to bear in mind that Fury might well start off the fight tonight in the early rounds from the orthodox stance as a way of wrong-footing Usyk, as a way of surprising him, because it's something that Fury particularly does. The final point I wanted to make, and I guess this last key to victory definitely goes for both fighters as well. I think a key area of competition here is going to be in the clinches. So, in my mind's eye now, I can see Fury in some of his fights in the past. He has this bad habit that he's accumulated recently, where he lunges when he's clinching the opponent, and essentially, I think it's about him trying to get a breather because he can't sustain the pace that he's fighting at, mainly. So both fighters need to both respectively to initiate the clinches tonight and be able to nullify and counteract the other person's clinches, essentially. I think this is a key terrain here. I think, incidentally, Fury, because he's been trained by Sugar Hill Stewart, the nephew, I think, of Emmanuel Stewart, the late great boxing trainer who trained so many world champions down the years. Kronk fighters usually have a strategy for these fights where they're trying to set up one key punch, essentially. So I think in this fight, Fury is likely to have in his back pocket probably an uppercut that he's trying to get. He's almost trying to lure. I can't say that word in a way that I'm happy with. He's trying to coax Usyk to come inside on him, and then at the same time Fury's going to try and time probably an uppercut or a check hook or a combination of power shots, just as Usyk has dropped his guard. It's almost lulling him into a false sense of security. So that's likely to happen with the clinches. So that's an area to keep an eye on tonight. So those are the keys to victory. I've gotten my way through that in about 22 minutes, and I want to throw in a few quick question marks as well, which I don't think I'm going to cover in a lot of detail. I'm just going to chuck them out there. So the question marks that I have are Fury's game plan. I've said what game plan I think Fury should employ, which is to be very aggressive on the front foot and not to try and box on the back foot and essentially try and counter punch the whole time. I need my water with me to do this. I'm not sure what Fury's game plan is going to be. This is one of the intangibles and unknowns. So that's the number one question mark that I have going into this fight tonight. The second question mark is around Tyson Fury's stamina. He's somebody who has a pretty good engine, considering his size and sometimes what his physique looks like. He doesn't always have a six-pack. He looks quite ungainly and awkward and uncoordinated, I suppose. When I'm talking about his stamina, I mean his cardiovascular fitness. I also, frankly, mean his punch resistance as well. Essentially, a question mark that I have is how much does Tyson Fury still have in the tank here? He's had a lot of miles on the clock. He's been in a fair few wars with Deontay Wilder. He had a very tough fight last time out, unexpectedly, to Francis Ngannou. And he's up against a guy in Alexander Usyk who is, as I said earlier, is like an Energizer bunny. And he's a much better conditioned athlete. He's more coordinated. He's probably pound for pound a better boxer, marginally, than Fury. So Fury is going to have to find a way to keep up with what Usyk is doing. He's a high volume guy as Usyk, so I don't know if Fury will be able to sustain a high level of activity for all 12 rounds if it goes the full 12. My final question mark here, before I go straight into my prediction here and nail my colours to the mast, is I don't know, guys. It's taken me nearly 24 minutes to say this, ironically. I I don't know if this is going to be an exciting fight tonight. It could very well be a chess match, frankly, which descends into two guys feinting with each other, two guys jostling with their lead hands, because Fury is an orthodox, normally Usyk is a southpaw. It could be them stepping on each other's feet, could be lots of clinches, the referee could end up playing an unexpectedly big role in this. So before I finish this point, I'm just going to take another sip of water here. In case you weren't able to work that out for yourself, I thought I would just narrate that. So my third and final question mark is it going to be an exciting fight? I hope it is, but I don't know, based on what game plan particularly Fury is going to come in with, and how good the referee and how strong they're going to be on things like fouling, the clinch, which would be a key area as well. So finally, to my prediction. You know, when we're analysing, I guess, any type of sporting contest or competition, you know, I could look at this 100% in a rational way. I could compare the two fighters, the tale of the tape, and I could say, well, Usyk, he throws more punches, he's a better conditioned athlete, he's got better footwork, he's got faster hands, which is saying something against Fury as well. He's got all these physical attributes, and he's very skillful, very slick boxer. And Tyson Fury hasn't looked very good as of late. He looked shot, frankly, in his last fight against Francis Ngannou, and he's not looked very good for a long time now, if we're being honest. So I could choose to look at this completely rationally and then therefore make a very good case that Usyk is going to win tonight, and he's going to win quite well, actually, and win sort of hands down, I suppose, on the scorecards, maybe even stop Fury. But I've been watching boxing long enough. I've been watching Tyson Fury long enough to know that sometimes in these really big moments, these crunch fights, which happen from time to time, that actually there's something intangible that kicks in. These special fighters from time to time do something which is irrational. So to give you an example, Muhammad Ali, when he fought George Foreman all those decades and years ago, if you were to look at that fight on paper beforehand, you know, that fight shouldn't have even been competitive. George Foreman was the younger man, much bigger puncher. You know, he was unbeaten. He had the advantage in years on Ali, who had lost before, had that miles on the clock. And then when you get into the fight, if someone was to tell you that Muhammad Ali's strategy in that fight was the rope-a-dope, was to literally stand there in front of an absolutely murderous puncher like George Foreman and essentially take their punches for many rounds, that to me seems like a very irrational thing, but yet that is exactly what happens. And I'll give you more examples as well. I'm down in the water, so I'll give you two more examples with Fury. So Fury, in the way that he initially won the world title back in 2015 when he fought Vladimir Klitschko, was he decided to box Vladimir Klitschko, the master boxer. You know, if that was seen as a totally ludicrous thing for somebody to attempt, for someone to go into Vladimir Klitschko's backyard, where he typically gets the benefit of the doubt on decisions, on tight rounds and fights. And the conventional wisdom would have been that you need to knock out Vladimir Klitschko, particularly because his chin was not the strongest in the division. Another example I want to give is the second Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury fight, where Tyson Fury's strategy for that, as he told people in advance of the week of the fight, was to hold the centre of the ring and to back up Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder, probably one of the biggest punchers in heavyweight history, with that murderous right hand, the right hand that's like a nuclear weapon or a hydrogen bomb. When he lands that right hand, people hit the canvas. That's how strong that punch is. But yet Fury decided as his game plan for that was to try and back up Deontay Wilder. Conventional wisdom would have said probably, okay, what you need to do is you need to stay on the outside, be very defensive minded, lunge in and out, try and catch him when he's making a mistake, but jump back out again. So Fury went completely against conventional wisdom, and that trend that I've observed is leading me to this prediction, which I'm finally given here, which is that my gut is telling me that Fury is going to win a tight decision here. I think he and his team will have realised he has got no choice but to take this fight to Usyk, to really, bite down on his gum shield and make this a war of attrition, and really be on the front foot against Usyk and set the pace of the fight, and in some moments essentially to try and trade essentially with Usyk, which is a very, very risky strategy. But at this level, guys, every strategy is risky essentially. So this is what I think Fury's going to do. I think both guys are going to go for the stoppage, but neither of them are going to get it, and so I'm backing Fury to win a narrow decision. I'm going slightly more with my instinct on this than I am with my rational mind. So I'm going more with my heart and my gut feeling on this, rather than my mind, which is leaning more towards Usyk and things I've seen in terms of Tyson Fury deteriorating perhaps in the last few fights. So that's what I think. What do you think, if you've managed to last this long in this lengthy video? This is my first video of this type of thing that I've done before, and thank you if you've listened to any of it. I appreciate it. I've seen some people have joined me on this live broadcast, but sorry, I'm just being distracted by something I see out in the garden here. That might be the subject of a separate video. This one has gone on long enough. That's my prediction for Fury Usyk. I'm so happy it's finally happening. I'll be so excited when I see both of them in the ring, and I hope whatever's going on in Saudi Arabia, I hope it really leads to many more of these fights happening that we want to see. So let me know what you think, and let me know what you think generally of this video, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you.